Hello and welcome to Better Days with Veronica Burnett. I am your Better Days coach, and you are here for another great episode. Today, I have a wonderful new friend. She is the ministry leader and creative genius behind Five Loaves of Bread. You can find her on YouTube with an amazing explanation and Bible study that I had an opportunity of watching and taking some notes from. And let me just read a little of her bio, then I'm going to bring her on and we're going to dive right in. So, Anntoinette Barbour is a truly unique, passionate, and extra regular person. We're going to find out more about that in a minute. She's a mother, wife, sister, auntie, teacher, minister, mentor, and follower of Christ. She wears many hats. After many years of being quiet and reserved, God has given her a boldness about sharing his word. That's beautiful. Having been ordained an elder, she was led to begin Five Loaves of Bread, a ministry dedicated to teaching, understanding, and application of the Bible. Outside of the ministry, she is a mom who loves her tiny humans and her husband and is grateful for each day together. She works in finance administration for a major university and part time as an instructor at a community college. Antoinette is a lifelong learner that is committed to making things plain and understandable for all. Let us welcome my guest, my new friend, Miss Antoinette Barbour. Yay!
Hello, hello. Thank you so much.
Yes, welcome, welcome. It is so great having you here, and thank you for your yes for joining me on this great conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that I did not mention in your bio?
I think everything was in there. I do a lot, but I think we kind of covered at least the topic of what it is.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I think so too. So listen, we're going to dive right in. One of the questions on my previous show, like many of you know, I was the host and creator of Faith to Flourish on a different YouTube channel, but now we're bringing it all home right here on this channel, and it's the Better Days um, podcast YouTube show with me, Veronica. And so my question that I ask everyone, and I will continue to ask, what does a flourishing faith mean to you? And before you answer, I'm
Okay.
going to continue to ask that question to all of my guests because faith is the driving force behind so much of what we do. It can make us
Yeah.
better, and the lack of it can keep us stuck. So I ask my guests all the time, what is flourishing faith to you?
Whew. So that is an awesome question. And bear with me in my analogy, but whenever I hear the word flourish, I think of like the tail on a peacock, or I think of like that, the cake that the magician waves over. Like it's the grand big show of a thing. And so to have flourishing faith, oh my God, it is really when you have the evidence of the quiet time, you have evidence of those very personal moments with God, when you're really at the end of your rope and you're not certain of what happens next, but God comes through and you get to see the whole big picture, the whole beautiful thing. And like when you think about a peacock's tail and how big and beautiful it is, that big spread is the evidence of that is the proof that the faith lived in that space and did some work there. It shows how well this peacock ate. It shows off how grand he is, and it's what attracts people to him. And when you have flourishing faith, that's you lifting God up. That's you giving God praise. And God says, "If I be lifted, I'll draw all men." And that flourish, that beauty of it, is what
Mhm,
draws people in.
mhm. Listen, when you said your analogy, I didn't know where you were going with this one, right? I have heard that it is described as a flower that's blossoming, but
Yes.
never have I heard it in regards to a peacock. And as soon as you said it, I saw it open. I saw all the beautiful, vibrant colors,
Yes.
and it is the evidence
It's the
of,
evidence of
oh
that
my
inside thing. Yes.
gosh. Oh, wait, we just need to sit with that for a moment. And it is the evidence of the quiet time with God. Oh, wow. So I'm trying to find a good place to put my notebook because I write and I take notes as people are talking.
It's okay.
Um,
I have mine too.
yeah, okay, good. Because I am a forever student, just like you. Um, but yeah, that quiet time with God,
Yes.
because you know, in that time you're praying and you're believing that He hears your prayers, and you're believing that He's going to perform. It's going to be a performance, right? And then
Absolutely.
you say that grand. What did you say? That grand big show.
Yes.
That is the evidence of that quiet time of you believing and praying. And wow, I
Whew.
mean, that's just, oh, I feel so overwhelmed right now by that.
Oh,
Like
we
that's
starting off strong then. Okay.
yes, that just puts it all in perspective. It
Yeah.
really, really does. If you can believe on that level, like you believe that it's going to be a performance of a big grand show, that cake, like
Get that
you
when
got
that
to
magician waves
know.
that cape, you
Yes,
can't
you
see anything that's going on. You can't see the hands moving. All you see is that miracle that happens at the end. And that's the way I see it. When your faith is flourishing, it's just evidence of the feat, the work that you put in. That work, we don't see the work, we see the miracle that comes from it. And I love it.
oh my gosh. Wow. All right. I'm not gonna get stuck there. I mean, because I could just like we can end right now. I'm done.
Oh, well, here we go.
You've done your job. Um, so one of the things that we were talking about, and thank you for that analogy too. I appreciate that. So one of the things that we talked about in our pre-show conversation was about how your faith turned into a ministry, and I have my notes right here. And at one point, you felt like you were paying for the oil that you have. Now I don't know if you remember saying that, but I wrote that down because there are so many people who they have faith. They know that they're supposed to be working in ministry in some kind of way, and they have gone through so much to get to that point that they're like, listen, I feel like God got the butter from the duck on this one. You know, like I'm really paying heavily and dearly for this. But how did you take all of this and turned it into a beautiful ministry like Five Loaves of Bread? And what made you say, I feel like I'm paying for this oil, this anointing?
I think that the anointing, we've kind of gotten used to it. We feel like it's just something that comes along with going to church and believing it's that, oh, I'm going to get a double portion of this and a double portion of that. But when you look at the people who carry the anointing in the Bible, they live lives, they suffer, they go through things. There are years and years that they wait for this miracle or this thing to happen. God may call them for a season to run and go, but they spend their entire lives preparing for that moment.
Mhm.
When you look at Samuel spent his whole life in the temple for his oil. He had to sacrifice even his childhood. He had to sacrifice even the relationship with his parents. Like he grew up in the temple. He got sent there as a baby or as a young toddler. So the oil cost. Even if you look at it naturally, you're not gonna go in the store and just pick it up and walk out for free. Oh, it's oil, it's
No.
cool. God made this.
Mhm.
There's a cost to it. And I think for me in my life, getting to 5 loaves of bread was a faith walk. I had gone through a lot. I've lost some very, very important things I never thought I'd recover from losing. And in that process, all I had at times was God's hand. All I had at times was the whisper of a prayer, a moan that I could get out. That's all I had. And in the end of everything, when the smoke cleared, I still only had God, but I understood differently. And that understanding is what brought me to this place where I can say, 5 loaves of bread is the thing that God is calling me to do. I think it's incredibly funny when God was like, hey, I gave you a voice, use it. And I was like, I don't know who you want me to talk to. I don't have any people to talk to. He said, I gave you a voice, use it. And God doesn't give me all the pieces. He just say go. He just say write. And so I'm like, okay, God, well, I'm waiting for opportunities at church to speak. I'm waiting for opportunities and I'm signing up and volunteering. But I'm feeling this push to just put the words out there and whoever gets them gets them. If I record it and put it on YouTube, somebody will wander across it and they'll get it. And I was like, it just lasts forever there. It's okay. So I start to talk about it and I'm like, okay, God, I need a name. You can't do anything without a name. And I wait and I wait and I wait and I wait. And I waited some more. And then eventually I heard 3 things back to back. I heard a joke about Jesus Jesus wanting us to eat carbs because he's the bread of life. And I was like, I do love some bread. And bread is an essential food group in my life. So I'm like, okay. And I laughed about it. And then there was a young lady kind of talking. I wish I could credit her so bad because she is her voice I hear sometimes. And she was like, it doesn't matter if somebody's already done what you're doing. It doesn't matter if it's 100 people out there. Anytime you feel like it's too many people out there, walk down the bread aisle. And when you walk down the bread aisle, it's still 3 types of bread. You're going to get white, wheat, or, maybe you might get a little pumpernickel or something, a little pita bread. But it's basically white. It's white or wheat bread. And it's hundreds of companies. So if they keep making the same product over and over again, it's going to be different when you do it. The same way it was different when they did it. And so don't let anybody tell you there's somebody already out here. So that was number 2 on bread. And I was like, God, that's weird. And then I was reminded of the story, the 5 loaves of bread, the 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. And then the bread is the part I kept. But the 5 loaves of bread story is a story of faith and hope to me. A lot of people see the miracle. A lot of people see Jesus in it. And I want you to see all those things. But I also want you to understand what it felt like to be a person in the crowd. And that's where we find ourselves. A lot of times when we read Bible stories, we want to be the main character. But
yes.
When I looked at it, I saw myself as a person in the crowd, hoping that there was enough God left over for me. And the faith will make you get in line. Faith, when they said separate the people out so we can pass out this food, and all they had was one kid's lunch, faith made people separate and sit down. Hope is what made the 5,000th man continue to be seated as he saw the miracle pour out for other people. Was it something? What Hope just said, it's got to be something left for me. It's got to be something in here for me. I don't care if I don't get 1 piece of bread, but it's got to be something left for me. And that right there was like, okay, 5 loaves of bread. It's a reminder to me. So 1, make sure Jesus is part of it. 2, do not care about what other people think. And 3, hold on to the faith and the hope that brought you through everything you've been through to this point. And so that's 5 loaves of bread and how it was born.
Meet Veronica Burnett, speaker, author, advocate, and coach. Let me ask you a question. Are you an organization that serves women survivors of domestic abuse, and you have spent countless hours looking for effective programs to empower your clients, but just haven't found it yet? Well, look no further. My mission is to deliver transformational coaching using my proven and effective 5-pillar program to empower women who have experienced trauma in their lives. I do this by showing them how to acknowledge and accept their past, activate forgiveness as a tool for healing, learn effective communication, activating the good by setting and keeping boundaries, and lastly, by being intentional and taking action. This transformation is for women who are ready to break dead-end cycles and create a better way of life for themselves and their families. This all happens in the Life Transformation Academy. To find out if the Life Transformation Academy is the right fit for your organization, or if you're ready to get started, email your request to vaburnett@veronicaburnett.com and we will take it from there. There are also opportunities for individual coaching. Let's get started today. I heard some of this story before, and I hope that you all were taking notes as she was talking. Again, I'm full. That the way you explain it, that faith that I have faith that there's food, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping that there is enough for me. Faith
Yes.
made me sit down at the table. Hope made me pull my chair up to it and grab my fork and my spoon or my knife,
Yes.
knowing that I'm going to be able to cut up something in a
Yes, it's
minute
gonna be something in there for me.
for
And it
me.
just made you wait and see. Could you waiting through 4,999 people
99.
to get
Yes.
served is a long wait.
Yes. And you still, and I'm so glad you talked about that wait, because that waiting and that patience piece
Oh,
is what makes us stop hoping. Because
yes.
when we feel like it's taking too long, because we are still in a microwave generation,
Yes, we are.
and we're hoping and we're having faith and we're waiting, and when God doesn't perform like we want him to, when we want him to, that's when we stop believing. That's when we stop believing that there's
Yes.
enough for us,
And we get out of
when
line.
yeah, we
And
get,
you
oh
gotta
my
catch
God.
it the next time he feeding people. You
Listen,
get out of
get out of
line.
line, abort the mission,
Yes.
put it all down, forget about it, change courses, when all you have to do is keep holding on.
Yes.
Especially when he's told you what's
Yeah.
there for you, what's waiting for you. You've got to be patient. And I guess that faith and patience go hand in hand, because
Yes.
it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, it could,
I
but for the
wish
most
that
part,
it
it
did.
doesn't.
I wish that it did, but I'm gonna be honest. Like Jesus said at Lazarus's tomb, I had to wait. I had to delay so that you could see this. And
True.
we miss that so much sometimes because we don't wait. We realize the thing died and we move on. But if we'd have just waited, if we'd have just stayed here for a second, then we would have gotten to see the glory of God. That's that flourish again. We would have got
Yeah.
to see the whole big pretty picture instead of just the sad part where it starts. Because peacocks are not pretty till they open their tail up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when they do,
Oh,
it's a whole production.
it
Everybody's taking out the
is.
cameras.
Yes, it is a
Everybody
whole
is
different
oohing and
thing.
yes, you're oohing and on everywhere. Yes.
Yes.
I wonder what it is. I mean, I think I know what it is that causes us to be so impatient, and not always the microwave generation, but the impatience being we don't know what it's really going to look like, you know,
Yeah.
and it could turn out the way we expect it to, but it could be even better. And we're
Yeah.
so afraid of that even better that we just take what's here right now, like we
Mhm.
settle instead of like moving forward and, holding on for that grand production. And I wonder why that is, that we get so impatient that we just settle. And I can say that from, and it's not just like a house or money, it's relationships, it's
It is.
marriage,
It's
it's
everything.
children, it's so many different things. And I can say for me, like when I was 37, I did not have any children and was not married, and I felt like God was taking too long. I mean, he
Mm.
was taking way too long. I'm 37. Come on now. I am now um at risk
Yeah.
pregnancy, and
Mhm.
may or may not get married. I didn't want all of that. So I got impatient and I settled. And that's the worst thing you can do. Now, I'm not saying that my settling was really bad, because I have the most amazing daughter in the whole world, and everybody else can feel how they want to feel about theirs. But mine is the most amazing gift in the world. She's the best thing that came out of that. But I could have waited a
Mm,
little longer for God's best for me and had more than one, but waited for God's
yeah.
best for me and not have entered an abusive marriage and not have had to leave after a year and a half and lose everything. I mean, I went through it, okay,
Yeah.
because I settled. Now, what would have happened had I waited for God to perform after I gave all of these prayers and fasted? And I wonder what the grand show would have looked like had I
I
waited.
I think about that sometimes. My first attempt into relationships, I was like, "Oh, this is it. Like, this is what it's gonna be." And he was a whole crazy person, and attempted in every way to ruin me. And I know now that that was the enemy's attempt to get me out before I could become what God was calling me into. But I was having a good time, and then when it stopped being good, I felt like I was responsible. I felt like I had to, and the relationship turned abusive for a time. Um, and I left literally with whatever I could fit in my car.
Okay. Yeah.
And so all of the furniture was left, everything was done, and I was like living off of what other people could help me put together. And I was pregnant. So it was an incredibly difficult situation. And I know now, one, I tell everybody I can, you're not responsible for the actions of another person. You're not responsible for because I felt like I had to stay with him because he was crazy and I could deal with his crazy. I was tough enough for it. But somebody else might not be. And I was protecting future victims by staying there. And I was
Mhm.
like, this is a whole crazy thing. And then you're not responsible for ensuring that your child has a father in their life. You're responsible for making sure they have a mother. And I had to make sure that my son would have a mother. And if I stayed, I couldn't guarantee that. And
Oh
so
my God.
I had to get out and make sure that he could have me. Now we struggled. And it was hard, but I did everything I could to make sure that he understood that life was going to get better. And that if you kept God the center focus, that it would work out in the end. And after a period of time, like it was a good couple of years. And I say all the time, God couldn't trust me with single because I was foolish. I had to get married. And it wasn't because I was out in the streets. I was smart and I like to play mind games with people. And that was really risky and it was damaging people in the process. And God was like, go ahead, send her the husband. But
Oh
me
my.
getting my husband early meant that neither one of us were really ready. And so we had to grow up and mature together, which was a whole different situation. And we made it. We're here. We're almost 13 years in, and we are doing great. But those first 10, I don't know, maybe first like 5 were really like, okay, God, I know you told me to marry him. If I don't know anything else, I know you told me to marry him. So you're going to have to fix him. And
Mhm.
it took a while, but it was because I was immature and God was like, let me get her together. So if you can be trusted with single, if God can say, I can put single in your hands and I know you're going to be okay with it, treat it well and
Mm,
really enjoy that God can give you that.
mm. Listen, you just told me a whole lot about myself. Okay. If he can trust you with single, that right there is a whole message in and of itself because so many of us feel like we have to get married. Now, I'm
Mm-mm.
not saying anything is wrong with marriage because I really do want to
Right.
be married again, for real this time, and I'll leave that there. But some of us, he's graced us to
Yeah.
be single. And when you're single, you can devote your time to being the best that you can be for the kingdom. When you are married, you have to divide yourself and your attention and your time and your energy amongst your family and God. And
Mhm.
that's hard sometimes for some people if you're not graced with marriage. Like if you're not graced to be marriage minded, and navigating that space, sometimes you really do need to sit back and say, hey, God, did you grace me to be single? And if so, how do I do this with you?
Yes.
Because all I know is grow up, get a job, get
Get
married, have
married, have
children.
kids.
You
Yes.
know, that's what so many women are taught. And that's what we go after. I got to find a husband, got to find a husband. No matter how crazy he is or whatever, got to get a husband. But what are you going to do with your singleness in the
Right.
meantime? How are you, you know, growing in your faith and in ministry and being a witness if you're so focused on I gotta be married? Like I was sharing with someone not long ago, like don't make marriage an idol. And
Right.
people can do we can do that. We can make it an idol
Yes.
because we want it so bad. We want it more than we want to please God. You know, don't make marriage an idol.
Marriage is a ministry in itself. And if
Yes.
you're not prepared for your own personal ministry and your own personal walk with Christ, then taking on that mantle of marriage is even harder. And that's where we were bumping heads when he was getting himself together. Well, not to get himself together. We always kind of been normal, productive citizens. But when he was getting his life together and aligned with Christ, I was still trying to act a fool. And so when I was like, okay, all right, we're doing this, we're going to do this. And when I started lining up with Christ, he was like, oh, so I took a break to come. And so we just never lined up in the beginning. And we had from so many different backgrounds, people forget. Y'all, everybody wants this wedding. Everybody is like, oh, I want to roll over and see my husband, but they stink and snore. And we forget those parts. We forget that well, now we got to share a bathroom. We forget the ugly parts of it. He's going to be sick at some point. This person is going to at some point change jobs, and then now our finances are in limbo for a week or two until the next check kicks in, or until the insurance picks up because there was a lapse. Like there's lots of things to consider, and when you are alone with God, you are alone with God, and you're not lonely because you have God. When you have a person standing next to you, even when God is like, hey, I need you to pray, he's like, hey, but I need this washed. I'm trying to pray and do laundry. If God gave you single, walk with him in single until it's a time that he gives you married. Because man, it's work over here. It's a work.
Here's the one thing that I learned, and then we're gonna like shift just a little bit. But one thing that I learned was that you can't wait, and I'm only talking to the women, and I guess men can take this on too. You can't wait until you are married to become a wife or a husband.
No.
That's what you need to become before you are
Before.
married. The word says, he who finds a wife. That means you are already a wife
Yes.
before the wedding day, before you sign your name on there, before you take the vows, you are already a wife. And so in your singleness, if you know that you're supposed to be married, that God showed you that, then prepare now. I'm not saying give away all the wife goods and treats
Well,
and
not
all of
that
that.
part.
Not
Not
that
that part.
part. And not even like I'm not even saying like, you were just talking about I have to do laundry and pray. I'm not even saying that much. I'm saying work on the characteristics that a
Yes.
wife would have. Work on the patience and that a wife would have, and the fortitude. Work on your prayer life. Work on your selflessness,
Yes.
because you cannot go into a marriage being selfish. It's not about you anymore. It's about we. And
Yes.
it's about serving each other. And if we go into it knowing that we are to serve each other and serve together in the world and in our purpose and ministry together, then the me, my, and I goes out the window. And so
Absolutely.
that's what we were working on. That's from a single woman, but that's what I'm learning. That's
Yes.
what I'm learning. Be
Well,
a
in
wife.
marriage counseling, when we talk to couples, I talk through all of those things. Those are exactly the points that we hit. This is not, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to make a promise to him. I'm making a promise to God that I'm going to do this. And you have to be in a place, in a position to be able to make that promise to God. That patience doesn't happen because you said, I do. Your ability to do simple things like say, oh, I'm going to the store. that doesn't happen when you say I do. It happens beforehand. It's an accountability, and you have to be used to being accountable to and for someone. It doesn't happen because you say I do. Your desire to not look or look at, your desire to be somebody to ask you silly questions. Being a navigator, I love being in the passenger seat. I will tell you exactly where to go and what turn to take. Don't make me drive. I had to learn that because in the beginning, anything I said the way I wanted to. I didn't consider his feelings. Being considerate is beyond, do you want to bite? It is, if I say it this way, even though my feelings are hurt, am I going to say it to hurt his feelings and now we're both mad? Or am I going to say it to heal? And so you have to learn that first. And that comes before marriage. That comes before children. Being able to get your point across without injuring people is probably, like, everyone talks about communication being the biggest thing. It's not communication. It's literally being able to get out what you need to get out without injuring. That is the biggest part of communication. And that's the biggest part of marriage. After that, because he would ask me to do his laundry and I would roll my eyes. I don't wash your clothes. Because I wasn't ready. God was like, get her married because she's not going to make it without it. But and I had to learn that. So now I have a different approach and attitude. I'm not here trying to injure anymore.
Right. Wow. Okay. I'm not even going to go into it. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So listen,
Okay.
if you know that you want to be married and you know that it's coming, be patient.
Yes.
And in your patient season, in your waiting season, grow, learn, become, prepare for for that big grand show. And the show is not the wedding.
It's the marriage.
It's the marriage. And
Yes.
it can be beautiful. It can be beautiful. It can be beautiful. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Yes.
All right. So listen, another thing that we talked about, and I wrote down some notes from our conversation. And one of the things that I said was that it's hard. You said it's hard for you, but it's harder for her without you. And so you were talking about, do you remember?
With the passing of my son. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you were talking about the woman out there that you talk to and that you help. And so you don't have to go deep if you don't want to. This is whatever you are comfortable sharing, whatever you're comfortable sharing. But when you say that, what do you mean? It's hard for you, but it's harder for her without you.
So sometimes we forget that the things that happen to us and the things that happen around us or involving us are not just about us. We have this main character energy and we feel like it is all us. And the reality is that God uses these opportunities and these spaces to build us so we can build others. And that is the situation that I find myself in now. The things that I have lived through. And a lot of times I say, oh, I lost my son 2 years ago. And literally in a couple of days, we will be hitting the 2nd anniversary of his passing. And when I say it, everybody's like, oh, who killed him? God did, man. It was like that, because that's so become the narrative for our Black boys, is that something happened to him outside. No, it was cancer. This was something that I prayed and God said no on. And I was like, God, you must be mistaken. And I prayed and fasted and prayed. And God was like, no, I was serious. This is what it is. And so for me to walk that out, and then the very next day, my son passed on a Monday. Tuesday morning, I got up and I went to work. And when I'm saying it was hard for me to do these things, but it's absolutely harder for somebody to do it without God. And sometimes you're the only God that people are going to see. I remember sitting in Children's Hospital with my son for doctor's appointments and chemotherapy and radiation and all these other things he had to go through during this process. And about a year after he passed, I'm sitting in Children's Hospital for a whole different reason with a different kid who was completely fine. And we're sitting there and there's a mom that comes in and she has this book bag on. And I recognize this book bag because whenever you have a kid that's going through chemo, you get book bags full of supplies because they spend so many days in the hospital. So you have these book bags with board games and tablets and deodorant and lotion and mints and special mouthwash and all these other things so you can kind of exist in the hospital. And she had the book bag. She had a kid in a wheelchair. And I could pray. And even without having spoken to her, I could pray. And when she turned around and looked over her shoulder, because of course they tell you to sit in the waiting room when you have a kid with a compromised immune system, that waiting room is the scariest place in the world. And so she turned around to look and we locked eyes. And I just said the words, "You're doing a good job. I'm praying for you." And that you could see the relief. Like you could see where she just understood that somebody connected with her, that somebody got it, and that there was another mom who saw her. And when I say it was hard for me, but it's harder for her without me. It is harder for these other moms who are walking through this. It is harder for the women who are walking into or out of domestic violence situations without people like you that give voice to the after. It is impossible for these women who have, are trying to survive a divorce, survive infidelity, survive losses, survive caring for elderly parents. Like it is hard for them when we don't speak up. So it's hard. And then of course our children, I talk about my baby girl all the time. My 11-year-old daughter has never lived a life without her brother because he's the oldest, but I have. So it's hard for me, but it's harder for her without me. And so it really is just a reminder that in every situation, use your voice. We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And these testimonies need to be spread everywhere as far as they can go because it makes the difference for someone else. And if I can get one person through the fire, then I've done what I was supposed to do. I don't have to save everybody, but if I can get one person through the fire without giving up and allowing it to consume them, we made it. And so many words.
No, that's what we needed. And now what is your son's name?
Joshua Emmanuel. Yes.
Joshua Emmanuel. How beautiful. I'm so sorry that you lost Joshua.
I so appreciate that, but I have to say I am so grateful for God's grace and plan, even in his life. That's
absolutely. And I want to tell you, thank you for using your voice to help her. Because you're right, there are women out there, people out there who need to know that they are seen.
Yes.
And that, what they're going through, they're not going through by themselves, even if we don't know all the details, because really it's not our business to know all the details, but just be available and to share a kind word, like, lock eyes and let her know that you see her. We need that in this world. That's showing love, that's showing grace, that's showing mercy, that's showing empathy, love, all of it. And it can help anybody's day get better,
It does. So it makes a difference.
It really, really does. And I've seen that with the women that I coach at the shelters and those who have been through abuse and trying to start their lives over. It can be daunting to start over. It's daunting to go through all of these things because you're in a state of disbelief. Like, I cannot believe this is happening to me and I have to go through this. But for someone else to share a similar experience with you and you see that they got through it,
yes,
that gives you hope.
Yes.
That you can
that's that light at the end of the tunnel. And I say it all the time. In order for there to be a light at the end of the tunnel, you have to walk through a dark tunnel sometimes and carry God's light. It's you're the light. And so it seems like you're by yourself and you're alone and you're the only person this is happening to, but you got a whole line full of people following you. And if you make it, they make it.
Yes. No, not if, when you make it.
There you go. When you make
When you make
it.
it, because you're not giving up. When
Right.
you make it, the rest of them make it. The
Yes.
rest of them. I
Yes.
love that. When you told me about the you being the light,
Yeah.
and I mean, because I tell my daughter every day, continue to be a light in school, continue to be
Yes.
that bright light, not thinking there are others that are following you. You
There
have to keep being the light.
absolutely are. Like, funniest parent teacher conference I've ever been part of. My daughter was my 11-year-old. I have a 3-year-old as well. My 11-year-old was in second grade, I believe. And I had a conference with her teachers, and it was right around October. And so there is a group of Christian kids in school who just were not having these scary stories that was going on. Like, people were telling scary stories. They're watching like the spookier movies and things. And my daughter is sitting at lunch with a group of her friends, teaching them how to plead the blood of Jesus. And I was like, you know what? You go, girl. Because sometimes we tell our kids, we expect them not to carry it. They're carrying that light in school and they're making a difference. She is having a prayer meeting in lunch.
I love all of that. I love all of that.
Yes, it makes a difference. And do not ignore or do not count out your kids. Sometimes we take faith so personally that we hide it in our hearts. And it's literally for show. We're supposed to be the light on a hill. Like, do not hide this thing. It's for show. It's on purpose. God is intentionally highlighting your suffering so they can intentionally see your flourish. They can intentionally see what you become, that glory of God.
I'm so glad that you said that he is intentionally
Yes.
highlighting your suffering. If
It's
we
on
could see
purpose.
it like that, rather than because it's not all an attack of the enemy. It's not all, God, why
Mm-mm.
you're doing this to me. I'm allowing this to happen so that it can grow you for my
Yes.
glory.
Yes.
So
And
that
and
other
grow in it.
mm-hmm.
Grow in it. Sometimes we just gonna coast and we're gonna just survive this thing. When we see Joseph been in the pit, he been in power, he was in prison, he was back, like he had so many ups and downs, and when he was down, he was way down. But it grew him, it changed him from look at the dream that I had, y'all gonna worship me, to crying at his on his father's shoulder, grateful to be able to see him again. It humbles you, but it's that humbleness that God can use. I'm so in the Bible today. I'm sorry.
No, this is good. This is good. And let me tell you why it's good, because when I'm talking with people and even when I'm coaching, I will let all of my clients know, listen, I'm going to talk about God. I'm going to talk
Okay.
about Jesus. I'm going to bring up the Bible, because when I was going through, when I decided that God, in that marriage, like, God, listen, this cannot be that life that you talked about. This cannot be abundance. I don't
Right.
see abundance here. Do you want me to stay or do you want me to leave? If you want me to stay, I need you to fix this man, because you know your girl, right? And this is the
Mhm.
way I talk to him.
Yep.
If you want me to leave, I need you to open a door. He used my daughter as the opening of that door, and I walked out of that door. But it wasn't easy to do because a blizzard was starting, and I
Oh,
did not want
wow.
to go home to my parents. I stayed in the hotel, 5 minutes up the street from my parents that night, because I didn't want to go home, because I felt so defeated and humiliated.
Yeah.
And
It's that
so,
failure, that fear of failure that'll keep you
yeah,
trapped, but it's not a failure. It's
mm-mm,
a
mm-mm,
reset.
mhm. Absolutely. So leaving there, and the next day I went to my parents' house. My mother said she was waiting for me to come home. Um, but I went to my parents' house and I had to live with them for 5 years. I'm sure I could have moved out sooner, but my faith had been crushed
Yeah.
under the weight of all of that defeat, right? And
Yes.
it was literally me, God, and my therapist. All right. That was out my three-strand cord.
Yes.
That's what that was, right? I needed it. But it was only God that brought me out of all of that. It was only God that kept that man from choking me. It was
Mhm.
only God that allowed this lady at the hotel to give me her friends and family discount so I could stay there for that night. The
Yes.
last room in that hotel that
Yes.
night. It was only God who got me through all of that, helped
Yes.
me to get through the PTSD. It was
Ooh.
only God. And so on my platform, on this show, we're going to highlight him in every single
Okay.
way because it's only through him that we could get through some of the things that we did. I should probably be in a hospital somewhere.
Mhm.
When you say that you it was for your daughter, I'm sorry, your son, when you left and you needed to make sure that he had his mother,
Yes.
that's all I had was to
Yes.
make sure that my daughter had me alive, not just carrying
Yes.
a memory of me, because it could have been something else, it certainly could have been another way. I could have ended up in jail because I was a little bit crazy,
Uh-huh. Yep.
but it was only God that got me through this. And when he said, Veronica, I need you to share your story,
Mm.
you better believe it. I'm going to share my story. And that story always starts, continues, and ends with him.
Absolutely.
Every
Absolutely.
time. Every single time. So go deep in your Bible if you must.
Okay. I'm arresting that. Sometimes like you know how you fight the thing? Like I want to do what God asked me to do, but do it my way.
Oh,
And I'm learning now that when you pray and say, God, guide my words, God, tell me what to say, help me to bring people you. And then
yes.
he does it, and you're like, but I don't want to say it like that. You just gotta let him have it. So I'm gonna let him have
Yes, please. And thank you.
it.
All right. So before we go, there
Okay.
were two more things that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
One, you said that you played the support role.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes. I have always described myself as a person who makes the curtain open for the person on stage. I am the behind the scenes person, 5,000%. Especially, and my husband is such a larger than life person. He has a very commanding presence. And I picked him, like, looked for him when I was choosing who I was going to go out with. I picked him because when he walked into a room, people listened, people moved when he said move. And I was like, yep, I'll just put him in the spotlight. And my husband is an elder as well. And he has a whole different ministry from what I have. And I spent a lot of years not talking. A lot of years not talking. To the point where sometimes when I speak, people are like, I forgot you were here because I had just been quiet for so long. Literally saw a therapist in elementary school because I did not speak enough. People were concerned about me. Super introverted. Very much, I'm pretty certain I'm on the spectrum a little bit because socially I don't always pick up on the cues sometimes. But I loved being a supporting person. I loved opening the curtain. I loved opening it up for somebody else. I would sit and my husband would, he doesn't type as fast, so he would preach his sermons out loud and I would type them up so he'd be ready to preach for service on Sunday. I would sit and pray and study so that you could have the notes you needed for this particular thing you were doing. And I would sit and study sometimes with teachers to help put lesson plans together and help get ideas for their classroom. Like I was happy being a background player. And God said, I let you be behind the scenes so you could see it. Now that you know what it is, I want you to do it. You don't need to open the
Mm.
curtain anymore. It's already open. You don't need to prepare somebody else because you know how to prepare. So now you have to walk in it. And so that's where I am. I love the supporting role. And right now, my job is to no longer play the background. And that's why I'm always a little frazzled in the beginning. But to God be the glory. I am being obedient so far. I am saying yes. And whenever there's an opportunity to use my voice, I do.
So basically, he said the same thing to you that he said to
Uh-huh.
me.
Yep.
Mm.
We are
I
out here
mean,
now.
yeah, I mean, all the way out here. There is no
Yes.
turning back. And you
At
know what?
all.
As scary as it can be sometimes with the uncertainty of it all, it feels so good. It
Yes.
feels so good when you know that you're being obedient,
Mhm.
willingly obedient, and you
Yes.
can see the fruit of that obedience. And even if some of
Mm.
it waits, I mean, even if some of it is later on, we know that it's coming. Just to be in this place now, it's so fulfilling. Yeah. So stay out here. Don't run
Oh, I
back.
can't go back.
You
God
can't go
locked the
back.
door behind me. I couldn't go if I
Oh,
tried.
oh, listen. Okay, so if some of you have followed me for a while, go and find the Energize Her Summit where I spoke on the fourth day, and I tell you how he shut the door for me. I mean, he literally slammed it one day.
Mhm.
Like
Yep.
you just he says to me, "You didn't get it, so let me help you out." I said, "Stop hiding." Okay,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yep, I
stop
had that.
hiding.
I
Yeah.
had that. It's not even, and then I'm just around some really amazing, amazing people who are being obedient as well. And when your group is saved, get you some saved friends. Like,
Yes.
get you some saved friends. When you have friends that'll pray with you, when you have friends that'll pray for you, when you have friends that say, "Hey, girl, you slipping." When you got people like that, it makes it so much easier because now you're not out here on a limb by yourself. It's a whole tree of us. We're all out here in the way that we're supposed to be moving. We're doing in our individual callings and our individual ministries. We are out here working. And when they come together, oh, it's powerful.
Amazing.
It's
Yes.
powerful.
Yes. I love it when you have that group who, like you said, supports you, prays for you, but they're doing what they're supposed to be. They're
Mhm.
moving and operating in their assignments as well. And you vibe off of each other,
Yes.
and you feel that energy from each other. And so you see your sister over here doing her thing, you're like, oh wait, it's a healthy competition.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
get
healthy because
pulled
you're
back.
like, wait, she's over here doing the things that she's supposed to do, and the Lord blessing her, and He done already told me to do this over here. Let me get
Mhm.
busy
Yeah,
because if He took care of her, then I know He gonna take care of me. But I have to be obedient, you
absolutely.
know.
All of that. All of
Yes,
that.
yes. But I have a really good friend, um, and I always pick on her because and tell her that she's in my business, right? Because out the blue, she will send me a text message and it will be so on point with whatever I prayed about or have been thinking about, contemplating, ruminating on all of the things. And she'll send me the text message and she'll call me and she'll say, God said, whatever.
Mhm.
And I would just say, why are you in my business today?
Yep, that prophetic friend.
Oh, but it gets me back on track and back on point. And it's like, okay, God, I hear you. And before I even thought I needed a confirmation, he's like, just in case you didn't hear me, let me let your friend tell you the same thing.
Mhm.
And then you didn't talk to her about it. But like she said, get you some friends, some
Yes.
real friends. That's
Yes,
about
it is
kingdom business.
essential.
Yes,
Essential for life.
yes.
It's how we make it through everything that we go through. Absolutely.
Yes, yes, yes. This is good. All right, listen, this is the last thing. I saved this for last because this is my favorite. When
Okay.
you said that you are extra regular, listen,
Extra regular.
I love that. I've never heard that. Please tell us what extra regular is because I think you're going to help all the people tonight.
Okay. So I say I am extra regular because I'm so normal. I'm so regular. I go to work, I come home, watch a little TV, I take care of my kids. Like, I live a very regular life. And I think for a long time, I just assumed that the men and women of God were like these holy of holies and they just float in and out of rooms. They don't walk. But I'm so normal. I'm so regular. I go to the grocery store. I'm still in there deciding whether I'm gonna get this one or this one because this one's 52 cents an ounce and this one's 44 cents an ounce. But this
Yes.
brand lasts. So I'm still very regular, and I'm so regular. I'm so normal. I'm so ordinary that I'm extraordinary, and I am extra regular. And I say extra regular because extraordinary has such an amazing connotation. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're extraordinary." It comes off as pride. But when I say I'm extra regular, regular and ordinary are the same thing. And I'm so regular, I'm so normal, I'm extra regular. And in turn, it means I'm extraordinary. I'm extraordinary. And when we think about ourselves as being regular, just normal people, you're so normal that you're extra normal. You're so regular, you're extra regular. You're so ordinary a person that you are extraordinary because we are fearfully and wonderfully made. God did not take his time putting together something that was just background. We're not non, we're not NPCs out here. Like we are not just background noise or background decoration. We are extraordinary works of art. We are masterpieces. And so my extra regular reminds me that even in being as normal as I am, I'm still extraordinary.
I love that. We are all masterpieces. I
Yes.
love it. It reminds me of when my daughter was painting, and I would say to her, "Baby girl, I want you to go and create that masterpiece. One day you're going to have this
Mhm.
masterpiece." So she says to me, "Mommy, I want to get my paintbrushes and my paint and my canvases, and I'm going to go and create something." I said, "Okay." So she came back. I said, "Well, how do you like it?" She says, "Mommy, this is a masterpiece."
It
I said,
is. I
"That's
put all of
it."
my time and attention in this one right
Yes,
here.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And
And that's
that's
what
what
God
we
did for us. I think sometimes we limit, we just don't because we're so used to us that we don't see the care and craftsmanship that went into it. When I first learned fearfully and wonderfully made, um, I immediately Holy Spirit was like a bomb. And I was like, what? But when you look at like if you watch the movies where they're crafting these devices, they are with tweezers and magnifying glasses and there is a respect for what they're working with because they understand what it's capable of. That's the fearfulness, but it's so wonderful how they put it together. When you think about the ingredients that go into these things, like it's amazing work of chemistry. It's fearfully and wonderfully made, and that's the way God put the care and attention into us. This was not a chance encounter of our parents just happening to run into each other one day cosmically in the universe. No, it was literally a crafted design to create you with the characteristics you have, that nose that spreads, that forehead that's wide, or the eyes that are absolutely gorgeous, the hair that falls perfectly every time. God crafted and created you the way that he did for you to have the life that you do so you can do the work that he called you to. It's on purpose. It's so intentional in design. This is why I was quiet for so long. It was a lot of words bouncing around in here.
How did you hold all of that in? I just don't understand.
When God gave me boldness, he gave me boldness. So the words that I was the kid that sat in the back row and whispered the answer to the kid in front of me. I was the person who did my work real fast and read a book and did something else and just kind of zoned out. And when God gave me a boldness, so now I'm not whispering the answers anymore, I'm saying them out loud. It's been sitting in here the whole time. That's probably why it's so many words, because I got to get them all out now. I got years and years and years of talking to do.
Here's what I love so much: how you paint the picture
Oh
and
wow.
how colorful you make it, and how relevant you take the word and apply it to everyday life. And you explain it in the way that just makes sense. Like I've never heard fearfully and wonderfully made compared to a bomb. And it's
Yes.
so accurate. And really, it makes us understand, like, really, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Like, he really created me like that. I hope you all take this and run with it. I
Please
hope
do.
you take it and run with it. If you get nothing else from this conversation, know that God took his time
Yes.
putting you together, and it was not by accident. It was not by
Intentional.
accident. He was intentional with
Yes.
putting you together, every fiber of your being. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right. Listen, if you had 30 seconds
Mhm.
to really speak to that one person, your one person, what's the one thing that you would tell him or her, um, that would encourage them to just keep going and to have faith and keep holding on to hope?
Um, what is bouncing around in my head is my grace is sufficient. I think that we use it a lot. We talk about we can do all things, and we talk about God being our strength, and that we talk about so many things about what God can do, but what God gave us is sufficient. God gave us grace, and that grace is enough. Grace is literally a little bit more time. It's a little bit more patience. It's a little bit more. And God has given you the exact amount that you need. And so when you feel like it's time to give up, if you can, tell God, I'm going to give up tonight. And then you live your whole day as though you never said that. And then at night, you say, God, in the morning, I'm going to give up. And you rest. And then in the morning, you say, God, all right, I'm going to give up tonight. And you just walk yourself through as though I got to do everything I can because I'm going to give up at this point. And as long as you keep moving it tomorrow, God, I'm going to give up tomorrow. I'm going to give up tomorrow. And tomorrow will always exist. You will always be able to give up another time. But understand that God gave you everything you needed to make it through this moment. God gave you everything you needed to make it through till tomorrow. And when you feel like you don't have enough left, when you feel like you are at your end and you are completely out of faith, you are out of hope, you are out of everything that's there, call somebody. God made us for community. Call somebody. If you don't have somebody to call, get on Facebook, get on Instagram, get on somewhere and just connect. They got the little green dot. Just send somebody a message. Hey, I'm having a bad day. Just need to talk. It don't even have to be somebody you know. Go to somebody with them little blue checks. But get connected to somebody and walk this thing out. You have enough. You are enough. God made you the way you're supposed to be for the way you're supposed to be. Everything that's happening is intentional. God's grace is sufficient. There's always going to be enough. Keep waiting. Keep sitting there and let that basket of fish get to you. Let that 5 loaves of bread make it to you because there were leftovers. And if you get out of line, you missed your portion. Okay.
I have nothing else to add to that. I just want to tell you thank you so much for joining me tonight. This was an amazing conversation. We could talk all night long.
Yes.
And this can easily be a 2-hour conversation about marriage alone, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. But I do want to say, I truly appreciate this opportunity. I so appreciate you having this space and sharing this platform because you could be selfish with it. There are a lot of people that was, I am the star, but I am so grateful to God for you and for this platform and for everything that brought you to this space, all the good, the bad, the ugly. I am grateful that you survived it so that you could be here to do what you're doing. This is amazing.
Bless you. Thank you. Wow. All right. Tell all of our guests, our viewers tonight, how we can find you and 5 Loaves of Bread.
So we are on YouTube at 5 Loaves of Bread, or at 5 spelled out LOB. I am on Facebook at 5 Loaves of Bread, on Instagram at 5 Loaves of Bread _ between all the letters, between all the words. I'm sorry. But that's how you find me. And I'm also at New Hope Baptist Church if y'all want to come out.
All right. And that's where is it located?
In Forestville, Maryland.
All right. Yes. New Hope Baptist Church in Forestville.
New Hope Baptist Church in Forestville, Maryland. Yes.
All right. And 5 Loaves of Bread everywhere.
Everywhere.
All right. Check her out. Follow her, like, subscribe, all of the things. Okay. Comment, ask questions, engage. You can see she's very personable and she will respond to you.
She will respond. This is our picture everywhere. So if you see this, you got us.
All right. Cool. Thank you so very much. And I cannot wait to have you back. You are always welcome to come back to Better Days because that's what we offer everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and end now. Remember, better days are ahead and greater is just around the corner. I'll see you on the next episode.